All right, in this Excel project, you are going to solve for the WACC based on book value and the WACC based on market value. The WACC stands for weighted average cost of capital. That is your chapter number 10. And it could be based on book value, and you know that book value would be the numbers on the financial statements. If you see total liabilities for debt, total preferred equity, and the total common stock for these other two. Okay, and market value would be a different story. If you are working on market value, you have to use the current market price for each of the securities and multiply it by the total number of units outstanding. Okay, so the first thing you can do is to get the market value. All right, and you know that the market value is the price in the open market times the unit outstanding. So you have 400 bonds being issued, and each bond is $904. So that's your total market value for the bonds. So let me just change to dollar format, and then I can just drag it all the way down. All right, you see this comes from this 100,000 come from $100 per preferred stock in the financial market times 1,000 units. And this is 700,000 is the market value for common stock. Okay, and then you can get the percentage weight for the WACC. The percentage weight basically you need to first find the summation of the values. So for the book value is right here. Okay, and for the market value it is also the summation of all these individual capitals. Okay, and I'm going to use the format painter, okay, to apply the same format for this cells, or just to apply the borders around the numbers. Okay, and then you can get the market value weights and book value weight. Okay, so after you get the total, you will need to get the percentage, okay, from the dollar figure. So you will need to use the book value, or the individual book value for that. Let's say that's your first, divided by the total. Okay, that's a 25%. Okay, actually 25.5%. All right. And the second one, you can drag it down, but make sure this total is locked, because you don't want this cell to be shifted all the way downward. Okay, so you can hit hotkey F4. Okay, hotkey F4. All right, or you can just manually type in $sign here and $sign there to lock E5, and then I just drag it all the way down. All right, so that's 10.68% and 63.8%. So if you add them up, so that will give you 100%. Okay, and then for market value, it's the same story. You're gonna use each individual's capital divided by the total, and make sure you log the total. And then push it to percentage, and then drag it all the way down. Okay, and then just drag it to the right. You get a sum of the total. Okay, so you're going to use the market value weights and the book value weights to get the WACCs accordingly. All right, so now we need to work on the cost of capital. Okay, cost of a capital for each individual types of capital. You have debt, preferred stock, and common stock. So for debt, this is basically a corporate bond, and you need to get the yield to maturity for this bond. Okay, so yield to maturity is the cost of debt, is the required return for the bond. It's also the holding period return for the bond. Okay, so in the eyes of corporate managers, yield to maturity is cost of capital. Okay, and the yield to maturity is the rate based on the given financial information. So the number of periods is 10 years. You see the maturity is 10 years. Okay, and the payment is 10% coupon rate times 1,000, which would give you $100 coupon payment each year. Okay, and the present value is this 904. That's the current price in the open market. Okay, that's your present value. Okay, make sure this is a negative because your Excel, just like your financial calculator, would recognize the cash flow directions. So if you spend money today, you will receive money in the future. Okay, so it has to be balanced out. All right, and then you put a future value that's 1,000. Okay, and if you want to adjust for the type, it should be a 0. Okay, it should be 0 because the coupon payment are always made at the end of each period. There is one thing you need to notice that there's a flotation cost. And the flotation cost is the percentage that the investment banks charge the company to sell the bonds or to sell the stocks or any securities. So the way is for this price, investors buy from the market. For each investor to buy this corporate bond, they will pay 904. But for the company, they do not receive 904. They will receive 99% of the 904. So you are going to use this full price times 1 minus this 1% flotation cost. And the investment bank or the middleman will get 1% of the full price as the commission, as the service fee to sell the corporate bond. Okay, so after that you hit enter, and 12% is the yield to maturity of this bond. And you also need to realize that when you calculate the WACC, you should use the after-tax cost of a debt. Okay, after-tax cost of a debt. I'm sorry. All right, so just to add these two words there, after-tax cost of debt, which means you need to multiply 1 minus tax rate to the cost of a debt, and the cost of debt only, because preferred stock and common stock are all getting a net income, and the net income is after taxes are paid. So the cost of a capital for preferred stock and common stock is already after tax, but for corporate bond is not. So you have to multiply this 1 minus tax rate. Okay. All right, and then for preferred stock, you have a dividend that is $10. So if you use the formula in chapter 10, I'm not going to show you that formula. You can check the PowerPoint. You need to use this dividends divided by the current stock price for the preferred. Okay, so that's 10%. Okay, that's 10%. So for every $100 the company raised by issuing preferred stock, they have to pay $10 each year to attract investors. But wait a moment, I forgot something. Okay, what I forgot is the flotation cost. The company does not just directly sell their securities to the investors. The company have to hire investment banks like Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank, Morgan Stanley to do the job. And they will get the preferred stock, they will get the debt and also common equity from the company and resell to the individual market, individual investors in the market. Okay, so instead of getting the full price $100, which is the money paid by an investor in the financial market, the company is only getting $98. Okay, because the investor, the investment bank or the middleman or the underwriters would charge 2% for service fee to float the market. So I'm going to apply, times 1 minus this 2%, okay, this 2% flotation fee. So the company is not getting $100 for a preferred stock. The company is only getting $98. And make sure you apply the parentheses here. If you don't, then the Excel would just not give you the right answer. So make sure you apply a set of parentheses for the after flotation price. Okay, so instead of getting 10%, paying 10%, the company is actually paying more than 10%. The company is paying 10.20% just because of the involvement of the investment bank because they charge commission fee. Okay, and for the common stock, you utilize the formula. Be careful in the formula to get whatever done, either the price 0 or the cost of capital. You need to use a dividend to 1 because this price $70 is a price 0. So you have to use a dividend 1 to get price 0 or get the required return. Okay, so how do you get a dividend 1? You need to use this dividend 0 times 1 plus the growth rate of the dividend. Okay, so that's dividend 1. Okay, no question with that. And after you get a dividend 1, you need to use dividend 1 divided by the required return. Okay, sorry, divided by the stock price. Okay, and then basically you need to add the flotation fee, add the growth rate back. Okay, add the growth rate back. So the formula you put in there is, let's say you have a price 0 equals to dividend 1 divided by R minus G. So that was the formula we used in chapter 9 to get price 0. And if you rearrange this equation, then you solve for R here. So R would be equal to price 0, dividend 1 divided by price 0. Okay, and then you add G. All right, so that's exactly what I did right here. All right, and don't forget, the company is not getting full price $70, which the investors are paying, but instead the company is getting only 95% of the full price. Okay, so you have to apply this 5% flotation cost in there. So before is where you put the price, so the company is getting the after flotation portion of the price. So you need to apply 1 minus the 5% flotation cost there, and don't forget to apply the set of parentheses to make sure you get the after flotation price. Okay, so let me decrease the decimal. Okay, 12.31%. Okay, so now you get all the cost of capital at after-tax level for all types of capital here, debt, preferred, and common. And now it's time to solve for WACC. So for the WACC, you know that it's the weight times cost of capital for each individual type of capital, and then you add them up. So for a book value weight, you use this percentage for debt times this after-tax debt, okay, and then weight times cost of capital for preferred plus weight times cost of capital for common. Hit enter. All right, so that's your answer for this book value WACC. For the market value WACC, you can do the same thing. Okay, you can do the same thing, just use 1 times another plus 1 times another, so on and so forth. But I want to introduce you this method. It's called a sum of product function. Okay, I don't think I have enough space. Let me just zoom out. Okay, it's called a sum of product function. You start your formula with a sum, and then you use the numbers in this vector, which is your market value, times the numbers of this vector, okay, in this column, and the close parentheses to finish. Okay, this is very important. To finish, you do not just hit enter. Instead, you hit Control Shift Enter. Okay, be very careful. After you finish editing the formula, you hit Control Shift Enter. Okay, so that's your answer. Okay, to verify if this is the right way to do it, you can just do it for the book value. So sum of product function, start with sum, and the book value weights, rid of them, and then the cost of capital, rid of them, Control Shift Enter, that's what I hit. Okay, so that's exactly the same number as I got before. All right, and then you can apply the same format and also the border here to make it look to make it look a little bit nicer. Okay, so these are the answers I'm seeking. Once again, if I grade you, I will not just take a look at this number 10.76 and 10.51. You cannot just copy down that number. I want to see the entire process. I want to see all the formulas behind all these numbers. Okay, so in other words, you are graded based on the formulas.